The floating amphitheater of Station Oranax 7 was filled with students from across the galaxy. 300 young beings sat in curved rows that hung in the air without any visible support. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no solid form at all and floated in special containers. They came from different worlds, spoke different languages, and saw the universe in different ways. But today, they all came to learn about the same thing. Professor Velkuth stood at the center of the Great Hall. He was a tall creature with gray skin that looked like wet stone. 7 eyes sat on his face in a pattern that no human would find natural. His body gave off a soft glow from patches on his arms and chest. This glow changed color with his emotions. Right now it was a deep purple. This meant he was feeling serious. This meant today's lecture was important. "Welcome, students," he said. His voice was deep and carried easily through the hall. "Today we discuss one of the greatest mysteries in galactic history. Today we talk about species 791. A soft murmur passed through the crowd. Everyone knew this number. Everyone had heard the stories. In the middle row, a young woman sat between a large insect-like being and a creature made of floating crystals. Her name was Mira Vasquez. She looked different from everyone around her. Her skin was a warm brown color. Her hair was black and fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were dark and bright and full of curiosity. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a body that seemed too soft and too small compared to the armored beings around her. Mira had always been different. The doctors called her a genetic anomaly. A 1 in a trillion accident of evolution. Her body temperature ran hot. Her emotions ran hotter. She could run for hours without stopping when other species would collapse. She formed bonds with people quickly and deeply. She cried at sad stories. She laughed too loud at jokes. The Kethri who raised her said these things made her special. Mira was not so sure. Sometimes being different just felt lonely. She turned her attention back to Professor Velkuth. He waved one long arm, and the lights in the hall went dim. A holographic image appeared in the air above him. It showed a planet, a beautiful sphere of blue and green and white. Oceans covered most of its surface. Clouds swirled across it like paint on water. Mira felt her heart jump. She did not know why. She had never seen this planet before. And yet something about it felt familiar. Something about it felt like home. "They called it Earth," Professor Velkuth said. His glow shifted to soft blue. Sadness. It was the homeworld of species 791. In their own language, they called themselves humans. He let the word hang in the air. Humans. Mira rolled it around in her mind. It felt strange on her tongue, like a song she had forgotten. The humans were a biological contradiction, the professor continued. Everything about them should not have worked. Their bodies were soft and broke easily. They had no claws, no armor, no poison. They could not see well in darkness. They could not hear high sounds. By all logic, they should have died on their homeworld before they ever looked at the stars. He paused. All 7 of his eyes swept across the students. And yet they did not die. They refused to die. Again and again, extinction came for them. And again, they fought back. The hologram changed. It showed images now. Humans crossing a vast ocean on boats made of wood. Humans building cities of stone with only their hands. Humans walking on the surface of a gray moon, their bodies wrapped in white suits. They were pursuit predators, Velkuth explained. This is very rare in the galaxy. Most predators use speed or strength or surprise. Humans used endurance. They would follow their prey for days without rest. They would walk and walk and walk until their target collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies were designed to never give up. Mira's hands were gripping the edge of her seat. Her knuckles had turned white. She did not understand the feeling growing in her chest. It was like pressure building behind a door. But perhaps the strangest thing about humans was not their bodies, the professor said. It was their minds. They formed bonds with other species, not just their own kind. They would find dangerous predators and turn them into friends. They would find prey animals and protect them like family. They looked at the universe and saw not threats, but potential companions. The hologram shifted again. A human child hugging a large 4-legged animal with fur. A human woman feeding a creature with wings. A human man sleeping beside a beast that could kill him with one bite. They loved, Velketh said simply. They loved easily and deeply and without logic. They loved things that could not love them back. They loved ideas. They loved stories. They loved each other with a fire that burned brighter than any star. Mira realized she was crying. Tears were running down her face. She did not know why. The crystal being beside her made a worried chiming sound and offered her a piece of cloth. She took it and wiped her eyes. 12,000 cycles ago, the professor continued, his glow now dark gray, all human signals stopped. Their colonies went silent. Their homeworld was found burned and empty. Whatever happened to them, it happened fast. It happened everywhere at once, and it happened completely. The hall was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The galaxy lost something precious that day, Velketh said. We lost a species that created art for no reason except beauty. We lost a species that wrote songs just to feel emotions. We lost a species that looked at the impossible and said, I will try anyway. He raised one arm. Today I will show you something special, an artifact recovered from a human vessel. It has never been displayed before. It is perfectly preserved. The hologram flickered. A new image appeared. Mira stopped breathing. On the display, frozen in perfect clarity, was a young woman in dark robes. She held a rolled document in her hands. She wore a strange flat hat on her head. She was smiling. Behind her stood a building of red brick. Beside her stood two older humans, a man and a woman. They were crying with joy. The young woman in the picture had brown skin, black hair, dark and bright eyes. The young woman in the picture was Mira. She was on her feet before she knew she had moved. Her chair clattered backward. 300 alien faces turned to look at her. That's me, she whispered. Her voice broke. That's my face. Those are my parents. The room erupted into chaos, but Mira could not hear any of it, because memories were flooding into her mind like water breaking through a dam. Memories of a life she had forgotten. Memories of a world that had burned. Memories of being human. The lecture hall had fallen into complete chaos. Students were clicking, hissing, chirping, and humming in 100 different languages. Security drones flew down from the ceiling. Their red lights blinked as they scanned for threats. Professor Velketh was shouting for calm, but no one was listening. Mira stood frozen in place. Her legs would not move. Her mind was breaking apart and coming back together in a new shape. The photograph still hung in the air above the professor. Her own face smiled back at her from 12,000 years ago. She remembered taking that picture. She remembered the hot sun on her skin. She remembered her mother crying and saying how proud she was. She remembered her father's big hands on her shoulders. She remembered the smell of cut grass and the sound of other families laughing nearby. Massachusetts Institute of Technology, class of 2147, Dr. Mira Elena Vasquez, quantum engineering. These facts came back to her like old friends returning home after a long journey. Miss Vasquez, Professor Velketh had pushed through the crowd. His 7 eyes were very wide. His glow was shifting between colors so fast it looked like a rainbow. Miss Vasquez, what did you say? Mira tried to speak. Her throat was tight. Her chest hurt. She felt like she was drowning in memories. That photograph, she managed to say. That is me. That was my graduation day. Those people are my mother and father. The professor stared at her. For a long moment, he did not move at all. Then his glow settled into a pale white color. Shock. Complete and total shock. That is not possible, he said slowly. This artifact is 12,000 cycles old. You are 23 cycles old. You were found as an infant in a damaged stasis pod, drifting through the Kethri home system. I know, Mira said. Tears were falling down her face again. I know. But I remember now. I remember everything. The security drones surrounded her. Other students backed away. Some looked scared. Some looked curious. The crystal being who had given her cloth earlier was making a high singing sound. It was calling for medical help. But Mira barely noticed any of this. She was lost in her own mind, lost in memories that were 12,000 years old. She remembered the laboratory where she worked, long white rooms filled with humming machines, her colleagues laughing at bad jokes during lunch breaks, the quiet satisfaction of solving a problem that had seemed impossible. She remembered the news reports. At first they were small stories, a strange illness on one of the outer colonies. Then bigger stories. The illness was spreading. It was not like any disease anyone had seen before. It moved too fast. It killed too efficiently. It seemed almost designed. They called it the Scourge. Within 3 months, it had reached Earth. Within 6 months, a quarter of humanity was dead. Within a year, the survivors knew the truth. This was not a natural plague. Someone had made it. Someone had pointed it at humanity like a weapon. They never found out who. There was no time. The last fleet was humanity's final hope. 12 colony ships. Each one carried 3,000 people in stasis pods. They would scatter in different directions across the galaxy. Even if the Scourge followed them, it could not chase all of them at once. At least one ship might survive. At least one group of humans might find a new home. Mira remembered the day she boarded the Evergreen. She remembered walking through the long gray corridors. She remembered the cold of the stasis bay. She remembered lying down in her pod and looking up at the glass ceiling. Her mother's face appeared above her. Maria Vasquez. A small woman with kind eyes and gray hair. She refused to die. She was crying, but she was smiling too. "Leave, mija," she had said, her hand pressed against the glass. "Live for all of us. Find a new home. Be happy. Fall in love. Have children. Tell them about Earth. Tell them about us." Then the pod had sealed. The cold had come. And Mira had slept for 12,000 years. "Miss Vasquez," Professor Velketh's voice pulled her back to the present. "Miss Vasquez, can you hear me?" She blinked. She was sitting on the floor. She did not remember falling. Medical beings surrounded her. One was scanning her with a blue light. Another was preparing some kind of injection. "Do not give her anything," Velketh ordered. "Not until we understand what is happening." He knelt down beside her. Up close, his gray skin looked like cracked earth. "Miss Vasquez, Mira, I need you to tell me what you remember." Mira looked at him. This alien creature with 7 eyes and glowing skin. A being from a species that had not existed when she was born. A being who knew humans only as legends and ghosts. "I remember being human," she said. Her voice was steadier now. The flood of memories was slowing down. They were settling into place like books on a shelf. "I remember Earth. I remember the Scourge. I remember the last fleet." Velketh's glow turned deep blue. Sorrow mixed with wonder. "You remember what killed your species?" Mira nodded slowly. "A plague. We called it the Scourge. It was artificial. Someone made it to destroy us. We never learned who or why. We only knew that we were dying. The last fleet was our final attempt to survive. 12 ships, 40,000 people. We scattered across the galaxy and hoped that at least one ship would make it." The professor was very quiet for a long moment. "Your stasis pod was found drifting alone," he said finally, "damaged by radiation and impacts. The Kethri family that discovered you thought you were a new species, a mutation, an anomaly. They raised you as their own." "I remember now why the pod was damaged," Mira said. A cold feeling was growing in her stomach. "The Evergreen was attacked. Something found us. I do not know what. There was an alarm, red lights everywhere. The captain came on the speakers and said we had to abandon ship. The stasis pods could be launched individually. They became escape pods." She closed her eyes. The memory was painful. It felt like touching a fresh burn. "I saw the ship breaking apart through the glass of my pod. I saw fire. I saw pieces of metal flying through space. And then I saw the stars. Just the stars. And then nothing." The lecture hall was completely silent now. Even the security drones had stopped moving. Every being in the room was listening. "You are human," Professor Velketh said. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact spoken with absolute wonder. "You are the last human, the only surviving member of species 7291. Mira opened her eyes and looked at him. "Maybe," she said, "or maybe I am only the first human you have found." The professor tilted his head. His glow flickered with confusion. There were 12 ships, Mira continued. Her voice was growing stronger now. Something was building inside her. Something warm and stubborn and very, very human. 40,000 people. They are still out there, drifting, waiting, just like I was. She pushed herself to her feet. The medical beings tried to stop her, but she shook them off. My people are not dead, she said. They are lost, and I am going to find them. The next 3 days were the longest of Mira's life, longer even than 12,000 years of dreamless sleep. The Galactic Institute took her from the lecture hall to a medical wing, then to a research center, then to a secure facility that floated in its own private section of space. At each place, new beings examined her. They scanned her body with lights and sounds and energies she could not name. They took samples of her blood, her hair, her skin. They asked her thousands of questions. Tell us about Earth. Tell us about human biology. Tell us about human culture. Tell us about human history. Tell us about the Scourge. Tell us about the last fleet. Mira answered as best she could, but her memories were still scattered and broken. 12,000 years in a damaged stasis pod had done something to her mind. Some things were clear as crystal. Other things were foggy and unclear. Some things were simply gone. She remembered her parents' faces, but could not remember their birthdays. She remembered the taste of her mother's cooking, but could not remember the names of the dishes. She remembered the feeling of sunlight on grass, but could not remember the address of her childhood home. It was like trying to read a book with half the pages torn out. On the fourth day, they brought her to the Galactic Council. This was the governing body of the known galaxy. Representatives from 300 species sat in a vast circular chamber. Their seats rose in tiers like the inside of a great bowl. At the center, on a small floating platform, stood Mira. She had never felt so small in her life. The council speaker was a being called a Drevnaki. It looked like a tree that had learned to walk. Branches spread from its head like a crown. Its voice was deep and rustled like wind through leaves. Mira Vasquez, it said, you claim to be a member of species 7291. You claim to have survived for 12,000 cycles in stasis. You claim to know what destroyed your species. I do not claim anything, Mira said. Her voice was steady even though her hands were shaking. I simply remember. Many have claimed to be human over the centuries, the speaker continued. Many have tried to profit from the legend. All have been proven false. Test me then, Mira said. Compare my biology to the human remains in your museums. Compare my DNA to the samples you have collected from human ruins. I am not lying. I cannot lie about something that is written in every cell of my body. The chamber was silent. The speaker's branches rustled thoughtfully. We have already conducted these tests, it admitted. Your genetic structure matches human samples with 99.97% accuracy. The 0.03% difference is consistent with natural genetic drift over 12,000 cycles of stasis. A murmur passed through the council. This was confirmation. This was proof. You are human, the speaker said. The first living human the galaxy has seen since the Great Silence. This raises many questions. But the most important question is this. What do you want? Mira took a deep breath. She thought about her mother's face behind the glass of the stasis pod. She thought about her father's strong hands. She thought about a blue-green planet covered in clouds and oceans and life. I want to find my people, she said. Another murmur. This one louder, more confused. Your people are dead, a council member said. It was a being made of pure energy, flickering like a flame. Earth is a burned rock. Your colonies are ruins. The humans are gone. Not all of them, Mira said. The last fleet had 12 ships, 40,000 people. I was on one ship. That ship was destroyed, but I survived. Who is to say others did not survive as well? The pods were designed to last. The stasis technology was designed to preserve life for thousands of years. 12,000 years is a long time, another council member said. This one looked like a giant slug covered in jewels. Even if other humans survived, their pods may have failed by now. They may have drifted into stars or black holes. They may have been destroyed by debris. They may have, Mira agreed. But they may not have. I was found. I survived. If even one other human is out there, drifting in the dark, waiting to be found, then I have to look for them. She turned slowly, looking at the hundreds of alien faces surrounding her. "I am the last human you know about," she said. "That makes me responsible for my species. Not because anyone gave me this duty, but because there is no one else to carry it. If I do not search for survivors, no one will. If I do not try, then humanity truly is dead, and I refuse to accept that." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. Something was waking up inside her, something old and stubborn, the same thing that had driven her ancestors to cross oceans on wooden boats, the same thing that had pushed them to walk on the moon with primitive technology, the same thing that had made them keep fighting even when the scourge was killing them by the millions. Hope. Stupid, irrational, beautiful hope. "The humans had a saying," she continued. "They said that hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. I do not know exactly what that means, but I know that hope is the only thing I have left, and I will not give it up." The council chamber was very quiet. Then the speaker's branches rustled again. "What do you need?" it asked. Mira blinked. She had expected arguments. She had expected rejection. She had not expected this simple question. "I need a ship," she said slowly. "I need equipment to detect stasis pods. I need access to the records of where human ships were last seen. I need crew members who are willing to search the empty spaces between stars for something that might not exist." The speaker turned to face the council. "This being is the last confirmed survivor of a species that the galaxy has mourned for 12,000 cycles," it said. "A species that gave us art and music and stories. A species that taught us that even soft creatures can be strong. A species that showed us what it means to love without reason." Its branches spread wide. "I propose that we give Mira Vasquez what she needs. Not because we believe she will succeed, but because the humans never let impossible odds stop them. And we should honor that spirit by letting their last daughter try." One by one, the council members began to signal their agreement. Lights flashed, sounds chimed, tentacles waved, energy flickered. Mira stood at the center of it all, a small brown-skinned woman surrounded by the representatives of 300 species, and she felt tears running down her face again. But this time, they were tears of gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. The speaker's voice rustled gently. "Thank your ancestors, Mira Vasquez. They earned this. You only have to prove them right." The ship was called the Remembrance. It was not the largest vessel in the galactic fleet. It was not the fastest or the most powerful, but it was perfect for what Mira needed. The Remembrance was a research vessel. It had been built for long journeys into unexplored space. Its scanners could detect objects smaller than a person from millions of kilometers away. Its engines could run for years without refueling. Its living quarters were designed for crews of many different species. When Mira first walked through its corridors, she felt something she had not felt since waking from stasis. She felt at home. The ship had been given to her by the Galactic Council, but the crew were all volunteers, beings from across the galaxy who had heard her story and wanted to help. Some were scientists who hoped to learn more about humans. Some were explorers who loved the idea of searching for the impossible. Some were simply kind souls who could not ignore a being in need. There were 20 crew members in total. 20 aliens of different shapes and sizes and colors, and one human. The first crew member Mira met was Crix. He was a Velthani, a species of tall, purple beings with 4 arms and skin that changed shade with their moods. Crix was the chief engineer. His skin was usually a calm, lavender color, but it turned bright violet when he was excited about a new piece of technology. "The scanners have been modified to detect the specific alloy used in human stasis pods," he told Mira on her first day. His skin was practically glowing with enthusiasm. "We can find a pod from 3 star systems away now. If your people are out there, we will see them." The second crew member was Dr. Shen Wei, or at least that was the name the translation system gave her. She was a cloud of golden particles that could take different shapes depending on her needs. She was the medical officer. Her voice sounded like tiny bells ringing. "I have studied everything we know about human biology," she told Mira. "If we find survivors, I will know how to care for them. I have even programmed the medical systems to recognize human vital signs." The third crew member Mira met was the one she knew best. Kelthrix of the Kethri, her adoptive father. He was waiting for her in the common area of the ship. His body was covered in hard blue shell, like a beetle the size of a bear. His many eyes gleamed in the artificial light. His mandibles clicked gently as she approached. "Daughter," he said. His voice was a series of clicks and hums that the translation device turned into words. "I was worried you would leave without saying goodbye." Mira ran to him and wrapped her arms around his armored body. She had done this since she was a small child. She knew exactly where to put her hands to avoid the sharp edges. She knew exactly how much pressure she could apply before it hurt him. "I would never do that," she said into his chest. "You raised me. You are my family." "I am Kethri," he said gently. "You are human. We are not the same species." Mira pulled back and looked up at him. Even after all these years, she still had to crane her neck. He was so much bigger than her. "The professor said humans form bonds with other species," she said. "He said they loved things that were different from them. He said they made family wherever they went." She smiled. "You are my father in every way that matters." Biology does not change that. Kelthrix's eyes blinked in a pattern she recognized. It was his way of showing deep emotion, things that Kethri did not have words for. "I have volunteered to join your crew," he said. "I hope that is acceptable." Mira laughed. It was a loud sound. Too loud for the quiet room. A human sound. She did not try to make it smaller. "Of course it is acceptable," she said. "I need someone to remind me to eat and sleep. You know how I forget." "You do forget," he agreed. "It is a very human trait, always chasing the next goal, never stopping to rest." They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Kelthrix reached out with one of his many legs and touched her shoulder gently. "You should know something," he said. His voice was serious now. "When I found you in that pod, you were very small, very fragile. I did not know what species you were. I only knew that you were alive and alone and afraid. So I took you home. I fed you food that I was not sure your body could process. I kept you warm with blankets because your body did not keep itself warm enough. I learned to read your strange, flat face and your loud emotions." He paused. "I did these things because they needed to be done, because you needed someone. But over time, I realized something. I was not just keeping you alive. I was loving you. In my own way, in the Kethri way, I was loving you as my child." Mira felt tears forming in her eyes again. She cried so easily now. Perhaps she always had. Perhaps it was part of being human. "I know," she said softly. "I always knew." "Good," Kelthrix said. "Then you also know that I believe in your mission. Not because I think you will succeed. The odds are very small. 12,000 years is a long time. Space is very big. The other humans are probably dead." He touched her face with surprising gentleness for a creature covered in armor. "But I believe in you because you believe in yourself, because you refuse to give up, because you look at impossible things and say they might be possible. This is what makes you human. This is what makes you my daughter." Mira wiped her eyes. "I am scared," she admitted. "What if I search for years and find nothing? What if I am truly the last one? What if I fail?" Kelthrix made a sound like rocks grinding together. It was his version of a laugh. "Then you will have tried," he said. "And trying is never failure. Failure is not trying at all. The humans knew this. It was their greatest strength." He turned and began walking toward the door. Then he stopped and looked back at her. "The rest of the crew is waiting on the bridge. They want to meet their captain." Mira blinked. "Captain? You did not think you would be a passenger, did you?" His eyes blinked with amusement. "This is your mission, your search, your hope. You will lead us. That is the human way." He left the room. Mira stood alone for a moment, letting his words sink in. Then she straightened her shoulders, wiped the last of the tears from her face, and walked toward the bridge. She had a crew to meet. She had a galaxy to search. She had a people to find. The last daughter of Earth was ready to begin. 6 months had passed since the Remembrance left Station Ornax 7. 6 months of searching through the cold emptiness between stars. 6 months of hope and disappointment and hope again. They had found debris, plenty of debris, pieces of metal that might have come from human ships, fragments of technology that matched nothing in the galactic databases. Once they found a section of hull with strange markings burned into it. The markings were human letters. They spelled out a word in English, perseverance. It was the name of one of the last fleet ships. Mira had cried when she saw it. She cried because it meant humans had come this way. She cried because the ship was clearly destroyed. She cried because hope was such a painful thing to carry, but they had not found any stasis pods. Not yet. Mira stood on the bridge of the remembrance and looked out at the stars. There were so many of them. Each one was a sun. Each sun might have planets. Each planet might have a small metal pod drifting in orbit around it. The math was terrible. The odds were worse. But Mira kept looking anyway. "Captain," Crix's voice came from behind her. His purple skin was a tired gray color today. Everyone was tired. 6 months of searching did that to people. "We are approaching the coordinates you requested." Mira nodded. "Thank you, Crix. Put it on the main display." The window flickered and became a screen. It showed a star map of the region they were entering. Red dots marked places where they had already searched. There were hundreds of red dots, and there were thousands of places they had not searched yet. In the center of the map was a small yellow marker. This was their destination, a section of space where, according to ancient records, one of the last fleet ships had sent its final transmission before going silent. The ship had been called the New Hope. "The records say the New Hope was damaged in the same attack that destroyed the Evergreen," Mira said. Her voice was calm. She had learned to keep her voice calm over the past 6 months. It helped the crew stay focused. If it was damaged the same way, the crew might have launched their escape pods. They might still be out there. "It has been 12,000 years, Dr. Shenwei said gently. Her golden particles were arranged in a shape that suggested concern. The power systems on those pods were only designed to last a few thousand years." "I know," Mira said, "but human engineers were known for building things stronger than they needed to be. It was a cultural habit. My people did not like the idea of things breaking." She turned to face her crew. 20 beings from 20 different species. All of them had followed her across half the galaxy on nothing but faith. All of them deserved the truth. "I know the chances are small," she said. "I have always known that. But small chances are not the same as no chances. And I refuse to give up on my people until I have checked every corner of this galaxy." Kelthrix made his grinding laugh sound from his station at the back of the bridge. "This is why I love humans," he said. "You are all completely unreasonable." Mira smiled at him. Then she turned back to the screen. "Begin the scan," she ordered. For 3 hours, nothing happened. The scanners swept back and forth across the region. They found rocks and ice and the cold corpses of dead comets. They found radiation signatures that were billions of years old. They found nothing that looked like a stasis pod. Mira felt the weight of disappointment settling on her shoulders. Another search. Another failure. How many more could she take before she broke? Then Crix's skin flashed bright violet. "Captain," he said. His voice was shaking. "I am detecting something." Mira's heart stopped. "What is it?" "Small metallic objects. Hundreds of them. They are clustered together in a stable orbit around that gas giant." He pointed to a massive planet on the screen. "The composition matches human alloys. The size matches stasis pod specifications." Mira could not breathe. She could not move. She could only stare at the screen as hundreds of tiny dots appeared around the striped planet. "Are they intact?" she whispered. Crix worked his controls with all 4 hands. His skin was now so bright it almost hurt to look at. "Most of them are damaged beyond repair," he said. "But some of them, Captain, some of them are still powered. I am detecting active life support systems. I am detecting heartbeats." The bridge erupted into chaos. Crew members were shouting and cheering and making sounds that had no translation. Dr. Shen Wei was already rushing toward the medical bay. Kelthrix was clicking his mandibles so fast it sounded like rain on a metal roof. But Mira just stood there, tears streaming down her face, looking at those tiny dots on the screen. Humans, her people. After 12,000 years, they were still alive, still waiting, still hoping. "Open a channel," she said. Her voice cracked. She did not care. "All frequencies. Maximum power." Crix nodded and made the adjustments. A light on his console turned green. Mira stepped forward. She took a deep breath, and then she spoke. This is Dr. Mira Elena Vasquez of Earth, daughter of Maria and Eduardo Vasquez, survivor of the colony ship Evergreen. I am speaking to any human who can hear my voice. She paused. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. You are not alone anymore. I found you. I found you, and I am coming to bring you home. For a long moment there was only silence. Static hissed through the speakers. Mira held her breath. Then a voice came through. Weak, confused, speaking a language she had not heard in 12,000 years, speaking English. Hello, is someone there? This is Sarah Chen of the New Hope. Is this real? Is this actually happening? Mira laughed. It was a loud sound, wild and joyful, and completely human. Yes, she said. Yes, Sarah. This is real. This is happening. My name is Mira. I am human just like you. And I promise you, everything is going to be okay now. Behind her, Kelthrick stepped forward. He placed one gentle leg on her shoulder. Well done, daughter, he said quietly. Well done. Mira reached up and touched his armored leg. She looked out at the stars. She thought about her mother's face behind the glass. She thought about the words she had spoken. Live, mija. Live for all of us. She had lived. She had searched. She had found. And now, for the first time in 12,000 years, humanity was not alone anymore. The fire that would not die was burning again, and it would never go out.